Hey guys, it is June the 5th, 2025, and I hope everybody's been having a wonderful day so far today. Well, it is Thursday, and we are officially one day away from the weekend beginning. And with that said, with us going into the weekend and it being summertime now, I hope that everybody has some really nice, fun, sober things planned for this upcoming weekend. And all of the upcoming weekends this summer as well. I hope that you guys have a lot of fun things planned for the summer. The thing is that when we get sober, it doesn't cost a lot of money to have a good time. We don't have to worry about spending $100 every single time that we want to go out and do something. You want to go to the park for the day, or, head up to the mountains for the day, or go to the beach for the day, or whatever it may be. You don't have to spend $100 on beer and ice and making sure that you have a cooler and lugging that cooler everywhere you go. When I was in active addiction, let's just say, for instance, I went to the beach with my family for the day. What it would have just taken, a couple of bottles of water for us to head out to the beach for the day, and everything would have been just fine. Maybe a little grocery bag with some snacks in it, and a very small cooler with a couple of waters in it, and everything would have been fine, and we could have enjoyed ourselves on the beach for the whole entire day. But when I went to the beach and I was in active addiction, not only did I take a little bag with some snacks in it, but I also had to lug my humongous cooler out to the beach every single time. And when we first arrived to the beach, that cooler was completely full. Not only did I have a full cooler full of beer, ice, mixers, liquor, because I would always have a mason jar in my cooler, because I wouldn't take a bottle of liquor out on the beach. I was too afraid I was going to get busted and get in trouble for it. But I would definitely have a big mason jar full of vodka inside of my cooler, and a mixer inside of a mason jar as well. And I always had to have a cup with me wherever I went. So I would have this cooler full of beer. There might have been a couple of maybe some Capri Suns in there for my kids, maybe a bottle of water or two for my wife, and the rest of the cooler would be beer or some other type of alcoholic drink. But the cooler would be completely full of beer, alcoholic drinks, ice, my liquor, my mixer, and that's about it. Like I said, if I wasn't drinking, we could have taken one of those little teeny little coolers you just throw over your shoulder down to the beach for the whole entire day, and everybody would have been just fine. And a little bag with some snacks in it, and our towels, and that would have been all we needed. But when I was in active addiction, I had to carry the whole kitchen out there with me. And sometimes I'd go out there, and especially if I went with my brother, we would be out there making like Moscow mules and things like that on the beach. So we'd have to have a little cutting board and a little knife to cut up our limes, and, all these different little gadgets and gizmos to go along with us. I mean, we basically had a little bar set up out there on the beach. And it's just ridiculous to go back and think about that, that we had to tote all this stuff out there. And then on top of it, we go out to the beach for the day, and, especially if I went out there with my brother, because he'd bring his kids, and, it would be my family, his family. We would get out there, and my brother and I, we egg each other on, or we used to when I drank. We would start pushing each other really hard. You're a wimp because you didn't take this shot, and we're already drunk, and it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's almost time to leave, and here we are, taking shots of tequila on the beach after we're already, seeing cross-eyed. But we would, like I said, we'd have to keep pushing each other. And I'll never forget this one time we were at the beach the whole entire day. This was, I think we were in Charleston, at the beach in Charleston. It might have been James Island, but anyway, that doesn't really matter. We were out on the beach the whole entire day, drinking the whole day. And after we got done, we had to drive back that afternoon, and we decided we wanted to stop by a restaurant and get some dinner before we came back. And I'll just never forget being in that, we were in a Mexican restaurant, and my brother and I were so wasted. And I've got a whole bunch of pictures that every once in a while will pop up on my phone. And I've spoken about this. You know, I have a Google Android. So I get pictures recommended to me. They'll say, you know, you remember this day back, you know, 5 years ago or whatever. And now that we're coming into the summer, I'm getting recommended these pictures from years ago from, you know, this time of year. And those pictures came up the other day, and we were at this restaurant, and I was completely wasted drunk. And there are so many pictures, and all of them are, you know, every picture I had to have my hand up with this huge pitcher of beer in it, or a big a beer mug in my hand, or it's every picture of me from back then. I always had something in my hand. It was either a shot glass, or a bottle of liquor, or a bottle of beer, or a big glass of beer, or a pitcher of beer, or whatever it was. But just going back through all those old pictures, you know, every single one of them, I had something in my hand. There was an alcoholic drink always in my hand. And not only was that the case for when I was on vacation, but that was the case for any holiday or anything. You know, anytime I was spending time with family or doing any kind of function, whatever it was, there was always a picture of me with an alcoholic beverage in my hand. I've gone back and looked at so many old pictures of myself, and I've always got something in my hand back then. Not now, not anymore, but back then I did. But my point to today's video is that, you know, all of the years back when I was in active addiction, you know, anytime that I went to do anything, you know, if I had a 4-day weekend off, or I was off for vacation, or whatever it was, you know, I always had to worry about, okay, do I have all of my liquor with me? Do I have all of my beer with me? Do I have my bottle opener with me? Do I have, I'll never forget this one time I was on a trip on the Chattooga River. I was up there kayaking with a bunch of friends of mine. And at this point, I'd gotten on a wine kick for just a little while. I don't know why I was drinking wine, but it was just one of those things. I guess I just got on a little kick for a little bit and was drinking wine. And I drank wine for maybe like a month. That was about it. And I got off of it really quick. It was giving me indigestion so bad. But I was on this trip up in the mountains with a bunch of friends of mine. We were up there kayaking for a few days. And I didn't have a cork opener for a wine bottle. And I had to find one. And I'll never forget, there's a Walmart in Clayton, Georgia. And I went to the Walmart in Clayton, Georgia, and looked all over the place for a bottle opener for a wine bottle, and couldn't find one. I looked everywhere. And the only thing that I could find was a Swiss Army knife that had a wine bottle or opener on it. And I spent like $40 on a Swiss Army knife just so I could open up a bottle of wine. Like, how crazy is that? And the really crazy thing about it is I still have that knife. Still to this day, I still have that knife. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pause this video and show it. All right, I had to go find the knife, but this is the knife. I bought this knife, I don't know, like 10 years ago or something like that. And it was, like I said, it was like $40. All because I needed this. I needed the wine bottle or opener on it. And That's all I wanted right there. I paid $40 for this knife right here, just so I could get the bottle opener. That was it. And that's my point, is that, you know, not only was it the alcohol that I had to worry about, that I had with me everywhere I went, but I had to have all my gadgets and gizmos and cups and ice and all the little things that I need to have along with me to make sure that, you know, I could drink the way that I wanted to properly. It's just absolutely insane. And when I say that I used to carry the whole kitchen along with me, I'm not joking. Because when I went somewhere, I had a little mini bar set up. I used to have a little mini bar in the back of my car. You know, wherever I went, you know, I could pull over on the side of the road, open up the trunk, and I could mix a drink in the back of my car at any time I wanted to, as long as I had ice. But my point to this is that when we get sober, we don't have to worry about bringing all of that garbage with us wherever we go. You know, if you want to just pick up and leave for the day on a Saturday morning and go do something fun with your family, what do you need? Your wallet, your keys, you know, your clothes. a couple of essential items, maybe your medication that you need to take along with you, or, maybe a couple of snacks, a couple of bottles of water, and that's about it. You can head out for the day, maybe a change of underwear and a towel, and you're gone. You're out the door. When I was in active addiction, first thing in the morning, I had to get up. I had to go get my cooler. I had to spray that out. Then I had to load up all of my drinks in the cooler and then put that in the car and then get all of my other stuff that I had to have with me. Like I said, like a bottle opener. And I've kept this knife on me for many, many years ever since then. And it's not because I want the bottle opener anymore. I just carry around a knife with me everywhere I go. But like I said, my point of this is that I had to have so many things with me everywhere I went. I had to have my little koozies wherever I went because I couldn't be on the beach or in some public place, with a beer can. I've spoken about this, but for Christmas one year, I was gifted a bunch of those little can sleeves that you could slide over top of your beer, and it would make it look just like a Coca-Cola. I had one that looked just like a Mountain Dew, and when I say these things look legit, I mean they look legit. It slid right over top of your 12-ounce beer, and it looked just like a Mountain Dew can or a Coca-Cola can. And I could walk right through Walmart and nobody would have known what I was drinking. And I used to do stuff like that. I went everywhere with an alcoholic beverage on me. But back to what I was talking about, I had to have my koozies. I had to have my little cutting board. And then after I had all the stuff loaded up in the vehicle for that day, before we could even head out of town, I had to stop by the gas station. I had to go in there, purchase a couple of bags of ice. Go out and break the bags of ice up, because every time you go to the gas station to get ice, it's always one big clump of ice. It's one big block. So you gotta throw it on the concrete, and there you are at 7 o'clock in the morning at the gas station, slamming a bag of concrete onto a bag of ice onto the concrete to break it up, and everybody's looking over there at you. And I'd be at the back of my car, breaking up these bags of ice and then pouring it all over my beer. And I always drank bottled beer back then as well. I would drink canned, and I would have canned beers on me as well. But there were always bottles because I drank IPAs, and I always had to drink the high alcohol percentage beers. But as my point to that is that as I was dumping the ice into the cooler, you could hear the clink, 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 clink of the ice hitting the glass bottles. People were walking into the gas station getting their cups of coffee, and here I am pouring ice all over my beer first thing in the morning. I can't tell you how many weird looks I got, at 6:30 a.m. at the gas station as I'm buying 2 cases of beer and 4 bags of ice. It used to happen all the time. Oh, and I had to get my bottle of Sprite because I couldn't go anywhere without my Sprite mixer. And there's another thing too. I had to have spoons and straws because I always drank my liquor drink with a straw. And I had to have my special tumbler that I drank out of because I always mixed my drinks in my tumbler because I didn't want the ice to melt. And that's another thing too. And this is crazy. As I'm sitting here talking about this, I'm thinking about all the little steps that I had to take before I went and did anything with my family. One of the bags of ice, because I always tore the bags of ice open and dumped it all over the beers so that the ice would get down in between each of them and they would be super cold. But one of the bags of ice I always had to keep in the bag. I would keep that whole bag of ice in one of the coolers. So one of the coolers, because I didn't bring just one, I always brought multiple coolers. I would have at least 2 coolers with me. One cooler was full of beer, and that's all it was, and other alcoholic beverages. I would have some stuff like Smirnoff ices and stuff like that in there in case somebody didn't want to drink beer. But I would have 2 coolers. One of the coolers was full of beer. The other cooler had mixers, maybe some food, and my whole bag of ice. And I would have stuff like my limes and my lemons and the little garnishes for my drinks and maybe some mint or whatever it was I was making drinks for that day. And I would have my shot glasses in that cooler and things like that. But 2 coolers just to go to the lake for the day, or 2 coolers just to go to the beach for the day, or whatever it was. And it took me all day the day before trying to scrounge all this stuff together, make sure that I was squared away, for my little trip. And then that morning I would wake up and spend the whole morning just trying to get all of my drinking stuff together and make sure I didn't forget anything. It's crazy to think that I used to write a list on the days that I would go to, let's say go to the lake for the day with my family. I would have a list that morning. You think the list was make sure the kids have towels, make sure the kids have bathing suits, make sure the kids have sunscreen? No, my list was limes, lemons, Ziploc bags, shot glasses, ice, beer, tumbler, straws, spoons, things like that. It's just crazy to think about. Now, if I want to go do something with my family, we just pick up and go. I'm ready to leave the house within 5 minutes. I need my keys, a couple of essential items like my medications, glucose tablets, things like that. Make sure that my insulin pump's charged up. If I have to take a look at my insulin pump and see, how much more time do I have left on it, because it only lasts for 3 days. And if I look at it and it's got 6 hours left on it, and I know I'm going to be at the beach all day long, I'll go ahead and get another insulin pump loaded up, and I'll just go ahead and change out the one that I have on so that I've got a fresh insulin pump on, or, make sure I've got my insulin pen on me in case something goes wrong with the insulin pump. Just things like that. But it only takes me a couple of minutes to make sure I have those things together. I grab a couple of bottle of waters, maybe throw a couple of snacks in a bag. I grab some fruit for myself or something, and we're out the door. No more of this, making sure that I've got 2 full coolers full of all kinds of stuff, and then on top of it, when we got to the lake or we got to the beach or wherever it was that we were going to, we also had to carry that stuff out there. And a lot of times, you park, but you still have, another 400 or 500 yards of walking to get down to the beach. And it's all hunky-dory when you're walking to the beach when you first get there. You're excited. You're ready to have a good time. And it's not that hot yet. And you're walking across the beach. The sand hasn't gotten to 1,000 degrees. You're excited about the day that's ahead of you. You probably have a nice little buzz already going, because I would drink the whole entire way to the beach. I drank and drove. I didn't get drunk, like I said, but I would have a couple of road sodas. That's what we called them. Those were my road beers. But by the time that I got there, I had a nice little buzz. It was, it was no big deal carrying the coolers down there first thing. But man, talking about a chore at the end of the day. You've been out on the beach drinking all day long. You're wasted drunk. You can barely walk. You feel disgusting. You're about to puke all over yourself. You haven't eaten anything all day long because you've just been drinking. And then it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. You've got sand all over you. You're starting to chafe because you've got sand everywhere. And then on top of it, you got to carry these coolers all the way back up to the cars. And what always happens when you're doing that? You got somebody on the front, somebody's on the back, and then the person in the front or the back lets go of the cooler because they're wasted drunk. All the beer falls out. It rolls out onto the sand. Now you've got, a bunch of beer cans covered in sand, and they're still good beers, so you got to throw them back in the cooler, and then there's sand all over everything. And then you got to go back and wash off all those beer cans. It is just a mess. My point to today's video is that, like I said, we're in summertime now, and everybody's going to be out. I hope that everybody here is going to be able to get out and get a chance to go out and spend time with their family. And I know there's some people that aren't. And I know there's some people here on the channel that don't have family. And for those of you, I am so very sorry. But you do have myself and you have everybody else here in this community. We are all a family. But my point is that, as you guys are heading out, to go do things for the summer, maybe it's just out for the weekend or maybe just for a day, or either you're going out for a whole week or 2 weeks worth of vacation, not having to worry about carrying all that crap around with you anymore. The lightness that we have when we aren't in active addiction, and it doesn't even have to apply to alcohol. It could be a substance, making sure that you're worrying about, okay, do I have enough pills to make it through this whole entire trip? Okay, let me count them all out and yada, yada, yada. Or do I have enough of this substance to make sure that I can make it through, or whatever it may be. And no offense to anybody. It's just, I'm just thinking off the top of my head about, making sure that we've got a certain amount of whatever it is that we need. We're rationing everything out, making sure that we are fully covered before we head out for the day. It's just having those chains tied to us. When we finally break free from it, and not having to worry about lugging all of this stuff around with us anymore. Not having to worry about who's going to drive home from the beach or who's going to drive home from the lake this time. Because everybody in the vehicle's drunk. Or everybody in the vehicle's intoxicated. Who's driving home? And then you're in there flipping a coin or trying to decipher who's the least drunk in this vehicle that's going to be able to get us home. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. If you do go to the lake and you're hanging out with a bunch of friends or family and there are a lot of people there drinking and you guys go to leave for the day and everybody else is drunk, you can be the designated driver. You can make sure that everybody gets home safe this time. Because just because those other people drinking doesn't necessarily mean that those other people have a problem with alcohol, because there are people out there in the world who can drink every once in a while and be completely okay. We can't. It doesn't work that way for us. Because when we have a drink, we don't just have 1, 2, or 3. We have as many as we possibly can, to the point where we black out, throw up, and wake up somewhere weird the next day. And that's just the way this works for us. We can't just have one. I know it's not any fun, but that's just the way it is. And, we have to protect our life, our health, and our sobriety, because it is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves. Being able to just wake up on a Saturday morning and just go, you know what? I feel like going to the lake for the day. There is no better feeling than just being able to get up, throw a couple bottles of water, maybe a couple of apples and a couple protein shakes or something into a bag, get in your car, and just go. Because if you were anything like me, it took you a couple hours before you even got out of the door. And then on top of it, then you got to clean that huge mess up when you get back. And you guys know what I'm talking about, because every single time that I came back from the lake or the beach or the mountains or wherever it was, when I got back home after our trip was done, I didn't start putting stuff away the moment that we got home. What I did was I started drinking super heavy, because I'm like, we're finally home. Now I can drink the way that I want to. And I would start drinking super heavy. I mean, get wasted drunk. And that cooler, or 2 coolers or 3 coolers, whatever, how many coolers it was that I had for that day, all the empties from that day were in those coolers, because that's where we put them. There often weren't trash cans where we were at, because we would be out on a boat or way out on the beach or whatever, and we didn't want to be throwing empty beer cans into the trash can so that we got caught. So we would take all the empties and just throw them right back into the cooler. So what ended up happening is, we had this, 2 coolers full of empty beer cans and empty mason jars with liquor in them, and cups that had liquor in them and all this stuff. And then all of that beer, that little bit that was left in the bottom of all those cans and everything, would pour out into the inside of the cooler, and there'd be trash in there and cigarette butts and people's beer cans and all of this nasty juice that came out of the cans and all this disgusting stuff. And when we're doing stuff like this, it's always during the summertime. Those coolers would be sitting in the back of my truck, all day as we drove back from the beach or from the lake. And then when we got home, they just sat in the back of the truck all the rest of that afternoon. And the next day, it's not like I woke up at 7 a.m. and went out and started cleaning my stuff up. No, I felt like crap the next day when I woke up. I had to wake up and have a couple drinks just to get up out of my bed that day. So I would wake up, have a couple of drinks, spend the whole entire day nursing my hangover again, just wasting my life away. And then finally, at some point, 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, I would finally drag myself up out of the bed or off the couch and force myself to go out there and start cleaning up my mess. And it didn't matter that it was 4 or 5 o'clock and that I'd finally had a couple drinks and the hangover was finally starting to go away. Talk about feeling like you're going to throw up. Every single time I had to go out there and clean up those coolers that were left over from the day before, I would be out there dry heaving, gagging, and sometimes actually throwing up because they would smell so horrible. You know, all these disgusting cigarette butts and cigarette butt juice and cigarette butts that are, you know, that have been soaking in beer and they break apart, and there's little pieces of tobacco that are all over the place, and then the tobacco juice, it stains everything, and there's, you know, because the cigarette butts were smoked and then, you know, they threw them in the beer can, then you've got like the ash and the soot from that. It gets everything black, and then, you know, you've got 20 different alcoholic beverages that have like leaked out into the bottom of the cooler, and it just smells horrific. And there's old food that's been laying in there, you know, half of an eaten Subway sandwich and onions and, you know, all the Italian seasoning and oil and vinegar and old turkey and ham and salami that's been sitting in there in the sun all day long, and old rotten lettuce, and just the cooler smelled horrible. You know, here I am out there trying to pick all this stuff up and throw it in a trash bag to clean all of it out. Then I had to go out there with some Dawn and a sponge and go out there and scrub the whole inside of my cooler out. And I had to do it outside because I couldn't do it in my kitchen. The cooler was too big. So here I am out there. It's 100 degrees outside. I'm hungover as all get out, scrubbing the inside of these coolers, spraying it all out. There's flies all over the place. I probably just threw up on the ground right beside me. I mean, it's just disgusting. And once again, when we get sober, we don't have to worry about all of that stuff anymore. You can just pick up and go and have a great time. Don't have to worry about waking up the next day hearing, you remember what you did last night? Do you know what you did last night? Or waking up the next morning and our spouse isn't speaking to us and we can't remember what happened. You have absolutely no recollection of what happened the night before. We don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. We can just get up, go, and have a great time with our friends and our family. And we can wake up the next morning and remember every single thing that we did. Not have to worry about, did we do a no-no the night before, or embarrass ourselves, or do something that might put us in jail or something like that. You don't have to worry about that anymore, you know? It's a great way to live. It honestly is. So let's have a great sober summer this year and spend time with our friends and our family and make amazing memories that we can actually remember, and not embarrass ourselves or do something that can hurt ourselves or others. Like I was talking about yesterday, I know that drinking can be fun. I really do. But it's a change in our perception. It's a change in the way that we interact with the world around us now. And that's the way that it is. You know, if every single time that you went to the lake, you used to be drunk. Now when you go to the lake, you're sober. It's just a little bit different of an interaction now. And that's the way that we have to look at it. Is it the same? No. It's different, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's a great thing. It's a good thing. It's a very positive thing. And I know that each and every single one of you can do it this summer. But just for today, let's stay sober. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, when we're sober, man, what we do on our vacations and on our free time and on our weekends, or on that extra day off that we get, or whatever it is. And it doesn't necessarily have to be during the summertime. I'm just talking about this because we are in summer right now. But, you know, just any little excursion that we go do, whatever it may be. If it's just going out to have dinner for the night, it's a different experience, and it's so much more of a positive experience. And like I said, we don't have to worry about lugging all this stuff around with us. You know, we can just take ourselves and our car keys and go have a great time. And one of the best things about it is you don't have to worry about getting arrested for a DUI, driving while intoxicated, whatever it is, whatever they call it wherever you live at. But we don't have to worry about getting in trouble because we're completely sober. It's a great way to live, guys. And if this is your first summer being sober, congratulations. And I know that you're going to have a wonderful time. I know that you will. If for anything else, just spending time with our friends and our family being sober, it's amazing. It really is. Because if there's one thing that nobody can ever take away from us, it's our memories. No one can ever take that away from you. No matter where you are in life, you will always have those memories. And having the memories of being sober and spending time with our friends and family, man, those are some great memories to have. They really are. And you can remember the whole entire day. Not just little fractions of it, but the whole entire day. And not just can we remember everything, but we don't have to worry about saying things that we didn't mean to say and hurting people that we didn't mean to hurt, or getting into a fight with someone that we didn't want to fight with, because those are the things that happen when we're in active addiction. So once again, guys, let's stay sober just for today. We'll worry about tomorrow when it gets here. Thank you so much for watching again, guys. I truly do appreciate it. And until tomorrow, I will see y'all then. Y'all have a great rest of your day. I love y'all so much.